My name is Alyssa Mahadeo, journalist and community reporter, and I dedicate my time to searching for the stories that matter the most. Positive, uplifting, and inspiring stories that spotlight the challenges and obstacles we conquer to become the people who are today. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of all the fairy tale lifestyles that people seem to be living on social media. Girl, you did not wake up like that. I'm interested in the genuine connections, the honest opinions, and the real uncut version of your true self. This show is about keeping it 100% real, deconstructing who we are and what we're all about. Join me as we sit down with individuals to discuss the personal struggles, the many challenges, and the moments that define us on this journey of self-discovery. Let's be real, life isn't fair and people make mistakes, but every opportunity is a learning experience. Let's discover the truth together right here on Real Talk. Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host Alyssa Mahadeo and I am here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. guys. Thank you again for joining us on another episode. Today I have a very spicy topic for you guys today. Today we're talking about sex education because it's something that I feel is not talked about enough. You always hear about it in like secrecy or in whispered conversations with your friends about, did you hear about what so-and-so did with so-and-so? And I find that, again, the way that the education system is set up, I'm very surprised at some of the things that we do not get to learn about in school. Everyone emphasizes so much about going to school, about making sure that you learn all the things, but no one ever teaches you about life. No one ever teaches you about those like hardcore topics that you know you're gonna have to face someday. They teach you about things like math and science, but like the basics and the things that you feel like, when am I gonna apply this in real life? Those are the questions that we ask ourselves in school, I always remember. But they never teach you things like how to do your taxes. They never teach you how to have a good relationship, how to have a healthy relationship, what you should do, you know, when that urge kicks in. And these are all conversations that I thought, you know, maybe we were going to have a gym class. And I remember my first so-called health class was they drew us a diagram on the board and they kind of pointed out what a couple things were and didn't tell us exactly where they were. They just kind of gave us like the generalized area. But then they were like, okay, that's all you need to know. Let's go and play flag football. And I was like, what? This doesn't even make sense to me. Anyways, today on the show, I have Stachen Frederick. Stachen has been recognized as the top 10 women of worth in Canada by L'Oreal Paris. She is one of the 100 accomplished Black women in Canada and by the 100 African Black Caribbean Women Network in 2018, so this year. She's had over 20 years experience in the field of community program development internationally as well as in Canada. And she is the founder of BrAIDS for AIDS, a non-for-profit to raise awareness of HIVs in African, Caribbean, and Black communities, as well as the executive director of the Weston Frontlines Center, which is a youth charity in Toronto. So Station's going to be here today on the show, and she's going to be telling us a little bit about the education that she does with Weston Frontlines and the youth of the community. So make sure that you stay tuned. Station's going to be joining us soon, and you are watching Real Talk. We'll be right back.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back. You're watching Real Talk. I'm your host, Alyssa Mahadeo, and today on the show, as I mentioned before, we have Stachen Frederick. Stachen is here. Stachen's actually been on my show before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to have you back because today I had a very specific topic in mind, and I wanted to talk about sexual education.
Right.
Again, as I kind of mentioned to the audience before, this is something that, again, if you grew up in a Caribbean household, if you were of Indian, Caribbean, West Indian background, chances are you never, ever got a sex education. I'm just saying that.
Right, yeah.
Again, my family is a very, reserved kind of, that's how we kind of grew up. We didn't really talk about these things. It was kind of like when it happens, we'll deal with it. And then, when it happens, you still don't ever deal with it.
Right. I mean, like I was saying earlier, like when we were talking before, I said, once I hit puberty, the response was like, don't get pregnant before marriage, right? And like that was just
always
the sum total of it, right? So I think, sex education is important, right? So it's good to start having conversations at a really young age, right? And it shows that, when children have open and honest communication with their parents, chances are the less likely that they will be engaging in, unsafe, sexual.
Also, we're taking the kind of shame out of it by asking those questions, by allowing them to have those open discussions with everyone, especially if whether it's someone who they're comfortable with, or like their parents or their teachers, or, just even asking questions in the school system. Right. Stachen, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, the work that you do, I know, with BrAIDS for AIDS and also Weston Frontlines Center.
Right, sure. So I am the founder of BrAIDS for AIDS, the organization. It's 10 years this year. It's sort of very hard to believe that it's 10 years that this sort of inception of, a concept, to see it grow and to see the amount of programs that we have sort of created, whether it's our program in the prison, whether it's in the libraries or in community centers, and now also doing more work, though we've done some work in like Trinidad, and there's been work done in like Anguilla and other places. Really for the next chapter of the organization is putting an emphasis on some of our international projects. So it's grown, and that we've gotten funding from different sort of organizations, so whether it's the Ontario Trillium Foundation, or the City of Toronto, or L'Oreal Paris. Early on this year, they recognized me as top 10 woman of worth in Canada and gave $10,000 to BrAIDS for AIDS. So even that type of recognition as well, this baby idea to have, a number of different key players recognizing our work. On the other end, too, I am the executive director of a youth charity in the Western Mount Dennis area, and that's one of the poorest ridings in Ontario, not just even Toronto. So we provide a number of different services for children and youth, ranging from after-school programs, whether homework club, music, dance, fitness. Right now in the summer, we have our summer camp, an 8-week summer camp. Also some STEM programs, so science, technology, and engineering and maths, and a lot of youths from marginalized communities are sort of pushed away, to the margins when it comes to some of those sort of things around science, technology, engineering, and maths. For me, I also have a background in chemistry, and so it's really important to have young people, sort of inspire, even if your life may take you a different pathway, is that you would have that sort of background. And then of course we have a culinary training program for youths 18 to 29. that we provide hands-on experience in terms of the kitchen, in class. They get free food handling, free smart serve, all of that, and we connect them with employment in the community. And they also do catering in the community. So if you're ever looking for any jerk chicken or pilau or anything like that, support the youths at Frontlines through our catering program.
So you guys do a lot. You have a full plate. That's like, I don't even know you took a breath in that entire situation.
I don't think so.
But you guys do a lot, and I love that. And again, it's a program, it's a charity for the youth, because again, I feel like they always need the most guidance, right? Especially depending on where they're coming from, what their upbringing is, where the communities that they live in, you know, the school systems that they're in, you know, like just giving them that tension that they listen, like, you matter too.
Absolutely.
You can make a difference. Whatever ideas you have, they're important. Those are the things that, you know, that's what we want to be encouraging.
Absolutely. I remember interviewing a young man for summer camp position, and he has been a youth that was a frontline. So he grew up at Frontlines, and his response, I said, "Why you want to work for Frontlines?" And he said, "You know, I want you to have the same experience that I had at camp. And at camp, I had people who cared about me and always made me feel that I could come back." So, you know, that to me, I get goosebumps even just thinking about it. That, you know, we provide that kind of homey vibe. You know, there's couches, there's foosball, there's, you know, lots of things. There's always, you know, food open out for the community. So I tell youth, any youth that have left, even like in our culinary program, you know, I never want to hear that a youth is on the street hungry, because the doors of Frontlines will always be open for them.
It's building a community of youth, you know, it's all inclusive, and the fact that, again, the people can get together and feel very comfortable there. That's the most important part of it. So last weekend, I know you guys had your BrAIDS for AIDS event. Because weekend before Caravana.
Absolutely.
So how did that go?
It was really, really good. So our Braidathon and beauty show is an event that we have every year before Caravana, because a lot of women are going to get their hair done. And so we utilize that opportunity to engage the community and conversations that really matter. So particularly in this last year, we've heard a lot about this hashtag #MeToo movement, right? But sometimes communities are left out into these conversations. You know, a lot of people didn't know that the #MeToo movement was started by a Black woman, right? And you know, it looks different when a Black woman discloses around sexual violence, you know, as opposed to a white woman, right? So one, just having that space where we can, you know, talk about our Black woman represented. Also to, you know, everyone is around, again, this hashtag #MeToo. But there's some deeper things that lie within that, and where the community is not necessarily going in depth in. So talking about mental health, how does that affect the mental health of women? How does it impact their sexual health? At one point in time, I had done a consultancy work for the AIDS Committee of Toronto and looked at the intersection of the violence against women sector and HIV. And a lot of times, you know, a lot of people might focus again on the physical health when a woman walks into a shelter or into a women's center. They might look at the mental pieces, but rarely do people go into that deeper piece around the sexual health. And again, that's the stigma and discrimination that lies, or even sometimes people, our own comfort levels. You know, you talked about, you know, the fact that didn't grow up in a household necessarily where you're having those conversations. So then that impacts how people are then able to have conversations with other people, right? So I think it's really important for the community to have these conversations. It was a very heavy subject. We had people disclosing but we provided spaces where people could go and talk to somebody afterwards. So I mean, people might look at on our social media and see lots of happy faces and a lot of smiling women looking beautiful and getting all their hair done and whatnot, but some really important conversations happen, and for me that is really, really important. And when we started the BrAIDathon, it was about 2014. We started this BrAIDathon thing. Literally was just one table. And fast forward to 2018, and there was about 15 tables and about 25 hairdressers at one time doing hair. So it's growing, it's a movement. I tell people BrAIDS Fades is not a brand, it's a movement of people who feel that it's important to have conversations in the community.
And I love that. I mean, I love that it's an event where like women can get together and like braid your hair, get your hair done for Caravana weekend, but also have those serious conversations. Because I mean, who do you have the most serious conversations with anyways? Your hairdresser. You know what I mean? You're going there, you're going to be there for like 8 hours sometimes, so you might as well. So we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to hear more from Stachen. We're talk a little bit about the sex ed curriculum. So we'll be right back.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Welcome back. You're watching Real Talk. I'm your host, Alyssa Mahadeo, and today on the show I have Stachen Frederick. She's here, and we are talking about sex education. Guys, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. We are here every Friday. Also, if you have any questions, make sure that you tweet us using the hashtag RealTalkTCN, so you can ask us any questions live here on the show. And also, you can follow Stachen at BrAIDS for AIDS on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram,
on everything,
on all the social media platforms, if you're looking to get in touch with her after the show. So again, like I said, today we are talking about sex education, and Stachen had something that she actually wanted to mention here. So you have a book.
Yeah. So I mean, one of as I mentioned, BrAIDS for AIDS is really taking a mission of doing work internationally, and so we are sponsoring 2 young women in terms of their education, internationally, one in Jamaica and one in Uganda. One of them is living with HIV/AIDS, but she's also a budding poet. And so she wrote this, made a compilation of her poems, and it's called Tales of a Positive Black Girl. And so it has some really impactful poems here. So if you want to get a copy, you can check us out at braidsforaids.com. Send us an email, and also it's available at a hairdressing salon, at Sensational Beauty Salon, which is at Eglinton and Dufferin. But you can get all the information on our website. Beautiful young woman. And so, like I said, we're supporting in her education. But in dealing, she's an orphan, so her parents died of HIV/AIDS. And Saturday after our BrAIDathon, her great-grandmother, who was taking care of her, passed away. So, this is, an opportunity for extra funds to come her way. That, even in Jamaica, a lot of work has been done from the government and other not-for-profits. There are, her medication in terms of the antiretroviral drugs are paid for, but some of the other complications leading around HIV/AIDS, some of the skin infections she may have or other, that's not necessarily covered by the government. So encouraging people to support her through this book.
Yeah, for sure. No, and honestly, like, I'm always here to support a fellow writer, of course. Of course.
Yes.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about, so in HIV and AIDS, I think, again, is something that also should be included in the school curriculum.
Right.
Before we get into that, the current school curriculum, I know that the government right now, we're all up in airs about the fact that they want to revert back to the 1998. I know we discussed this on a previous show because I had Tiffany Ford from the Toronto District School Board. She was here,
right.
And we kind of discussed it a little bit about the curriculum and how it's going to impact the youth, especially by not being able to get this formal education that they need. The new curriculum, I know, has been restructured to include things like gender identity, cyberbullying, online bullying. There was a whole bunch of other stuff that they had put in their curriculum that people are supposed to be addressing now, just because, again, the world has changed.
Right.
The way we think about these things is completely different. Again, when we were younger, we didn't learn about those first things. I just learn about it now.
Right.
Now when you talk about it, again, if I talk about it with when I talk about it with older people, they're very confused.
Right.
This is something also. They're very confused, so they don't know how to talk to young people. They don't know how to address young people. And then because they don't have that education and the younger people do, it's just like, well, this is kind of how we talk about things now. If you're not comfortable with it, then
right.
Right.
Well, my thing is that especially in this world of social media and the internet and whatnot, youths are finding out information, quite easily, right? And when you look at children being, in the school system for a majority of their day, there is a need for a comprehensive sexual health education. So what the changes, always happen, and this is what we see with a lot of governments. A lot of things are then pushed on not-for-profit organizations to do that work, right? To ensure that there is information available for young people, right? So it puts much more emphasis on the community to start, getting more involved, right? We have been approached by a number of groups, including like libraries and schools, for us to come in and to do that work, right? So I also think that while these changes that is looking to happen will have a negative impact, there's opportunity for community agencies to step in and to have those conversations with young people.
I find that again, because like I think it's great that the government is coming to, or other organizations are coming to the nonprofit organizations to talk about things like that, to get you guys to come in now and educate people. But why are we changing it in the school system is my question, really. I know, like, the curriculum itself, again, I can't say that I was ever affected by this curriculum because I don't ever remember learning it.
Right.
So, again, it was a very, very, very basic knowledge of this is what part is this is what it's supposed to do, this is what happens if this happens. Things kind of very, very, like, black and white kind of. There was no, like, in-depth education. There was no, well, what happens when I meet a boy and I have this urge to be with him, you know?
Right.
So there was none of those conversations, and I think that I know that the sex ed curriculum is also something that parents are allowed to opt out of. Mm-hmm. But again, unless you're having these conversations with your kids yourself, how are you opting them out?
Right, right. And I mean, again, it's so, you know, there's importance for all levels, mm-hmm. schools, community agency, churches, families, all parties to play that wrap around the youth to ensure that there is a comprehensive sexual health education, right? So like I said, I'm like, there is negative impacts, right, that will happen because you aren't having those, these conversations. Even with the comprehensive sexual health education, there was still a lot more that needed to be done, right? So for me, again, it's also to working with individual children and youth and speaking to them where they're at, right? One particular youth may not necessarily, would take in a lot more information as another one, right? And I think, again, when you look at our community agencies, the churches, the schools, we all have to play a part. And yes, with this change in the sexual health curriculum, there are putting constraints on teachers and guidance counselors and nurses in terms of having those conversations. The reality is young people are going to get that information.
And it's like you said, right? The internet is a very vast wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
That's where the kids are going to find the information, and then the issue becomes now, okay, I've seen something online. Now I want to go and ask somebody about it.
Right.
Now I can't ask somebody about it because we're not allowed to talk about it in school.
Well, that's it. The funny thing is, BrAIDS for AIDS, we had done a research study with some youths and was asking them where they typically get their information. They didn't talk about teachers, right? They talk about parents, they talked about friends, and they talked about other people. So even the things like hairdressers, they are who they have the conversations with.
I have friends that still have conversations with their
hairdressers around them, right?
Yeah.
So, or it might be, let's say a peer leader at their church, right, that they will have that conversation with, right?
Inevitably, you're going to have these conversations with people that you feel most comfortable with.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for some, especially young people who don't have, and when we look at racism in the school system, a lot of our Black youths don't necessarily feel comfortable going and having a conversation with their teachers. If that teacher is already treating them badly in the classroom, you think you're going to come and talk to you about my sexual health? That's not going to happen, right? What you see young people doing, they go on the basketball court and let's say they're, teen leader or whatnot, they're going to talk to them, right? You look at some of the recreational staff at some of the city, whether it's City of Brampton staff or the City of Mississauga or City of Toronto, sort of recreation centers. Those are the ones that they're going to have the conversations with, right? So I think, so again, as I said, every every single element of a child's life needs to have that information to be able to have those conversations with a youth.
Okay. So we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this great conversation that we're having here, so we'll be right back.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back. You guys are watching Real Talk. I'm your host, Alyssa Mahadeo. I'm here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. Guys, thank you again for tuning in and watching the show today. We are talking about sex education, and I have Stachen here. Stachen is, she's here. She's dropping some knowledge for us. She's offering some very helpful, advice and some conversation topics that we can talk about when discussing things like sex ed. We were kind of talking a little bit behind the scenes, but sex education is something that makes people very uncomfortable.
Right.
This is just the reality of the situation. This is real talk. We can say things like that. But people are very uncomfortable. Again, they won't talk about it unless it's with somebody they feel very, very comfortable with expressing these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Stachen was kind of mentioning a little bit about, we talk about HIV and AIDS, and that's something that's, again, very prominent in our community, specifically in the Black, Caribbean, African community. Something that people either are living with, people can contract, and they kind of don't have the education surrounding that, so they don't really know how to handle it when they do come into contact with it.
Right.
So I kind of asked you a little bit about some of the topics or the conversations and questions that you've gotten from youth over the years, surrounding things like this.
Right. So, again, I want to say too as well that, sometimes a conversation, it's not just going right deep into the conversation around HIV, right? You have where, people might easily just say, I'm going to Cuba, and what happens in Cuba stays in Cuba, right? Or what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And that's an opportunity where you could say, actually, no, right? And here's why, right? And so that's a conversation piece. So someone saying that, they're going out to a fete, right? And I mean, we're talking, it's Carabana.
It's Carabana weekend, so you guys make sure,
Absolutely, right? So it's just like, here's some tips, you want to make sure that you're safe, make sure you know your alcohol limit because you don't want someone taking advantage of you. Make sure you carry some condoms, right? And like, this is just like very just easy kind of like drop some tips. Don't necessarily need to be a big conversation. And then afterwards, somebody may end up coming to you and having those conversations, right? One of the other things is, a lot of people, like in our like prison where we do the conversations, a lot of young men, they are like, oh, I didn't know that there's something like, anonymous HIV/AIDS testing, right? So you don't have to provide your health card, right? And, a lot of people don't want to go get tested because of, I don't want this person to think this way. So again, there's anonymous HIV/AIDS testing. There's also rapid HIV/AIDS testing. So, you can get your results within 30 minutes, right? So there's lots of like knowledge out there. There's a new drug called PrEP, where if you, think that you are in a high risk sort of relationship or in encounters, that you could take this pill on a daily basis. It's almost like birth control pill, but now this is something that can help prevent HIV/AIDS, right? So there's a lot of information out there, right? So I think for me, I will have young people come and ask me about, can I get HIV/AIDS from oral sex? Yes, you can, right? Where can I go get tested? That's not my doctor's office because I don't want my mom to know, right? Okay, there's anonymous HIV/AIDS testing, and you can go to a number of sexual health clinics, right? And get that information. So I think there's a lot of information out there that you could receive. So I mean, I always sort of tell people, especially when I work with like youth workers, you want to be aware of some of the questions that a young person will ask you, and that you will have the resources to be able to give to them. And I also suggest to some of these youth workers to actually go to some of the places that you're referring these young people to, so that you can say, okay, well, go meet Berta, if it's Berta you're going to meet, right? Or whatnot, so that young people, again, could feel comfortable to have these conversations. But even outside of, young people, like, again, like hairdressers, like that is our, like, huge model and that we use around here and utilizing hairdressers. But hairdressers take on so much. Like, again, one hairdresser told me that she actually went with a youth who was going through therapy around being a survivor of violence, and you're just thinking like a hairdressers to do some hair, right?
Yeah.
But our hairdressers in our community are almost social workers.
Basically, I mean,
right?
you have to be. It's your part-time job at that point.
Absolutely. So I think it's just, again, giving, hairdressers and some of these leaders in our community
those resources.
Absolutely, to have those conversations.
I like that. I like that you brought up the point with having the safe sex around, especially like because it's Caravana. Again, when you go out, when you go to Cuba, when you go on vacation, and the people you meet, you don't know them. And I always remember this too, because this was something that I was taught. They did teach us about all the various like things that you can contract through being sexually active, and it's very important, again, with the anonymous testing, that, I mean, if you're not sure, or if you've known that you've had multiple partners and that there could be a chance, you're not trying to spread this disease or this whatever it is that you might have to someone else.
Absolutely.
Right?
And so a couple of things. One, not just about others, but yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't get tested, chances are that it could progress into AIDS, right? Well, and so, you have the infectious like diseases or whatnot, the opportunist infections or whatnot that can then lead to AIDS. So it also, from a perspective of your health, it's important. So you go do your annual checkup, right? If you're sexually active, you would need to have, a checkup when it comes to all your STIs and whatnot. It's just an important
It's
piece.
a responsibility.
Absolutely.
It's a responsibility, and it's also for peace of mind.
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
Some of the questions that, or even like topics that parents can do, like when, because again, I don't know how it's really being introduced in the school system, but if parents are looking to have these conversations with their kids, because again, they have that relationship, they've got that open forum discussion, what are some of the topics or some of the questions, that they can pose to their children?
Right. So one of the things not just even, posting questions, there's really amazing tools out there that you can engage your children in conversation. And so, there's an online website called Katie, and there's some youth resources. And there's some games that you could play.
Okay.
Right? And even with BrAIDS for AIDS, because we, working in the detention center, and we were having one-on-one conversations with the youths, and that was sort of the end of our interaction with these youths. A lot of them stated that they wanted for us to have more conversations with them. So we were like, how are we going to engage them in more conversations? So we ended up creating a game. So you know how you have like snake and ladders?
Yeah.
The game that we created is called Braids and Combs.
Okay.
Right? So, they play the game, and on each part, like, for example, it will have a thing, went and get tested for HIV, move up a ladder, right? And so then you're able, and then there's now a piece where you can continue that conversation based on that particular thing that they land on. And then you will have a next thing where, you scorn someone who's living with HIV, and you move down, right? And then you're able to talk about
why,
like the stigma and discrimination, and that you can't get like HIV from, touching somebody, right? And so, there are creative ways of having a conversation with your...
I like that.
Yeah,
I really like that. I can even see it, like, you could even, like, you could do it as a card game. You could do it, there's so many different ways that you can do something like that. Like, even, like, a trivia, like a question answer, like, something that you might have learned. Let's have another conversation about it. But do it in a fun way that doesn't make you feel like, should we be talking about this?
Absolutely. So, yeah, really, really cool things recently, too. I like, even played a game, it's called Midnight Taboo, but it's funny, I had a volunteer create something called Sex Taboo, and it's utilizing words around like sex and sexuality to have a conversation. So you can become so creative with the conversation, rather than, just pulling your child aside and like, I want to have a conversation right now with you about what's happening. I think there's opportunities for those conversations to happen in really creative ways.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. So we're going to take one final break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up this conversation about sex ed. Again, if you guys have any questions, make sure you tweet us using the hashtag RealTalkTCN. We'll be right back.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity in our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back. You guys are watching Real Talk, and I am your host, Alyssa Mahadeo. Today on the show, I have Stachen Frederick, and Stachen is talking today. Today we're talking about sex ed. We're talking about HIV and AIDS awareness, and a various amount of things. You know, just different ways that people who are looking to have these discussions, creative ways that they can have these discussions, and again, not feel uncomfortable about it. Because again, that's the whole point of things like this. Again, the world is changing. Conversations are happening.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, kids are so resourceful these days, and you can Google anything. It's like, I have a question about this. I was actually watching a show the other day where there was this very socially awkward girl, and she had a lot of questions about having conversations with her friends or how to handle situations because she just wasn't socially adept.
Right.
And the show has her Googling like every time she has a question about these things.
Right.
And I mean, that's basically what the world is like, though.
Absolutely. Again, the internet is a really vast place, but it's also too that there are, there could be misguided things on the internet as well. So I always
Cross-reference.
Yeah, exactly. Cross-reference. And the best places to usually go to just, start getting information. You want to type sex centers in my community, right? And then kind of go to their website and see the information that's being posted. And again, talk to your parents, right? Talk to some of your community leaders so that they can guide you. If you have that relationship with your parents, again, some kids may not have sort of open parents to having those conversations, but find an adult that you can trust and that you can get that information. As well, go to the library. The library is also
people don't go there anymore.
Absolutely, right? Right, but that's a good place in terms of, because at least the library would go through the types of resources that they are having in their center to ensure that it's the proper information, right? So that is some way where you can be a little bit sure that that have that information. And that's why I really like that the library had reached out to us to come for us to be doing some stuff in there in the library around HIV and STIs and young women around pregnancy and woman empowerment and whatnot.
Around puberty.
Absolutely.
Puberty is something that happens to everybody, but no one knows how to navigate it.
Absolutely. So I think that's the other thing, right? Is that there are so many different topics that you can then talk about HIV, AIDS, right? I remember when I was doing the L'Oreal Paris video shoot, and I said, when you look at the end result of a lot of social issues, there you will find HIV. So you can easily talk about mental health as it relates to people living with HIV. You can talk about lack of employment opportunities for women, and that why it puts some women in very precarious jobs as prostitution and whatnot, that put them towards again being at risk for contracting HIV. When you look at about abusive relationships, again, that will put someone around being at risk for HIV. When you think about justice, right? When you talk about decriminalization of HIV individuals who around disclosure of their exactly. There's so many different topics that you can then broach that conversation around HIV, and it's my hope that the community, in the same way we talk about cancer, is the same way at some point in time that people can talk about HIV and STIs and just have open and honest communication with people.
Yeah, and not feel judged.
Absolutely.
Right? Not feel judged, not to feel like part of the stigma, to be stigmatized, things like that. I mean, again, it's not just one person that's living with something like this. There's a community of people that are living with different STIs, like she said, HIV, AIDS, and it's about having the conversations like this young woman who you guys are working to help.
Absolutely. And I mean, even this is a tool, right? So that, let's say you wanted to have a conversation around HIV, it's bringing in a book like this, and here's a young woman living with HIV AIDS, and then that could spark another conversation. And she talks about, regular things that we, that we talk about, finding your meaning in life, right? About herself, who am I, right? So, there's so many different tools, but I did want to share one of her poems, and this was in regards to her mom. And, a lot of us, we have a mom, right? And I remember, like, this just touching me, because I remember having an argument with my mother, and I'm like, when I read her poem, I was like, that's, like, insignificant compared to this young woman who's lost her mom. So I'll read this very. So the title is, Mommy, You Are Missed. A moment passed and the pain didn't go away. A week, a month, and then a year. Yet the loneliness did not disappear. The years rolled on and life did too. And my thoughts often returned to you. Though I accept that you cannot return, my pain, though dull, continues to burn. Like something is broken that can't be mended. My life feels like it's been upended. I miss you now as I miss you then, my mother, my confidant, my friend. And as I watch me blossom into the awesome child I am, I wish you too could enjoy this day. I cannot miss whom I never knew, so I miss you more as I remember you.
This is beautiful.
Beautiful.
That was a very, very beautiful poem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can feel the depth of emotion in a poem like that, especially because of the way she's talking about her mom.
Absolutely.
Right, and how her mom is not here, and how she wishes her mom could see who the woman she is, who she's become, and how she's become empowered, even though she's living with something like this.
Absolutely. And HIV is not a death sentence, right? People can live for many years, without, dying of the infection. So I think, just hearing these stories, there's also a young woman who lives here in Brampton, who lives with HIV/AIDS. She's 25 years old, but she is also an amazing young woman. It was passed on from her mom to her when at birth.
Yeah.
But she is, she's a journalist. She travels, all over the world. She just was in Netherlands, and she will also become on the board of BrAIDS for AIDS, and I'm really excited for that. As I, I've been doing this for 10 years. I love the work that I do, but I don't need to be the face of BrAIDS for AIDS. I think there are some young women coming up that could take this to another level. So I'm really excited that Maluba will be joining, the team. yeah, just like really, really grateful to be surrounded by really amazing young women. It makes my sort of job and work of BrAIDS for AIDS much more meaningful, that we're doing this work, we're supporting young women, we're supporting young men, we're supporting the whole entire community as we really take this issue and, you know, and really dig deep in making sure that there's community awareness in fun and engaging ways, right? Not just, you know, again, here we gonna talk about HIV, but there's just different ways, and people can always connect with me outside. You know, like I said, there's BrAIDS for AIDS, everything BrAIDS for AIDS. Send us an email. We are open to talking to people, meeting people,
and connecting you with the right people. If you have a specific situation that you're looking to deal with, you know,
Absolutely.
It's just, I find that it's like you were saying with regards to mental health. Because there's such a stigma surrounding it, people don't know how to talk about it, and then they don't seek the help that they do need to deal with this particular situation because they feel like there's nowhere to turn.
Absolutely.
Right? But again, it's also about knowing that the community has your back. If no one has your back, the community does.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? They're here to help you. I mean, Simone does a show every Tuesday here, guys, on the network, and her show is also here to help you. Yes. You know, she's always here. She's always bringing people on who, again, discuss things like this with forums and community service places where you can go to get the information that you need, or to search for it online, or even just to connect with people like Stachen who might know who the right people are that you need to know. So guys, it's been another great edition of Real Talk. Thank you again for tuning in. Make sure that you like this video. Make sure you share this video. Make sure that you connect with Stachen. All of her links are in the description box below. And again, you know, we'll see you again next week. Again, make sure you tune in. I'll be here on Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. And make sure that you guys, if you guys have any question, tweet us at using the hashtag RealTalkTCN, guys. I will see you again next week. Thank you, Stachen, and thank you everyone for watching. See you next week.
Bye.